So, The Acolyte Episode 3 truly without a doubt set a world record for Lucasfilm, for Disney, as the worst Star Wars production in history as far as ratings go. We know that the fans are being 100% honest about their opinions about what they just saw. Just a couple of days ago on Tuesday when it debuted on Disney+, it truly was quite a disaster. The best way that I could really describe Episode 3, as far as the acting goes, is a very bad play that you would expect from a school or something around those lines that really just is not meant for Star Wars. It's so out of touch with the franchise to the point where it's almost unrecognizable. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So, the Rotten Tomatoes audience score for The Acolyte Season 1, Episode 3 really kind of brought things down drastically. We're now bouncing back and forth between 16 to 17%. At one point, it was at 18, it keeps dropping up and down, but expected to go down even further once Episode 4 drops on June 18th, as that is the very episode in which they are going to introduce pronouns. Now, moving on forward, with everything that's been going on with Leslye Headland, and everyone must know that name, Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant, one that was hired by Lucasfilm, one that was actually hired by Kathleen Kennedy. These are the types of individuals that Lucasfilm and Disney hire. You know, I think that the roles would be quite reversed if she were a male, right? Am I not getting the same feeling here? But moving on forward with this, what's interesting about everything else going on with The Acolyte Season 1, Episode 3, and how it really tanked the ratings on Rotten Tomatoes, what's interesting about this is that ever since the debut of The Acolyte Episode 3, that brought a backlash in worse than The Last Jedi from fans, bringing the Rotten Tomatoes score down to 17% and falling. One major development now has much to do with the showrunner and director Leslye Headland and the drama happening behind the scenes. That's been an ongoing thing in the wake of the Acolyte ratings disaster that got worse with Episode 3. Now, one crucial update to this situation now involves Disney's CEO Bob Iger and the executives that recently finalized the cancellation of Leslye Headland's multi-million-dollar deal that was going to include multiple Star Wars and Marvel shows via Lucasfilm and Marvel Studios for Disney+, working as both a director and a writer. Some of those projects were already finalized before the debut of Episode 3 dropped on the platform. However, the cancellation of multiple Leslye Headland-led projects for both Star Wars and Marvel, along with the cancellation of an Acolyte spin-off series that was going to be considered a prequel called Star Wars Eclipse, based on the video game currently in the works, was going to actually rake in Leslye Headland, get this, a whopping roughly $15 million, just for starters. This multi-million-dollar contract is now no longer moving forward, and it sparked outrage behind the scenes between both Kathy Kennedy, Leslye Headland going against Bob Iger's decision, as they are making moves in a desperate attempt to at least reinstate some of those projects to no avail. So far, where it stands right now, even Acolyte Season 2 is off the table after sets that were built for Season 2 were deconstructed that led to Disney wasting millions of dollars that could not be salvaged for another production. However, Acolyte Season 2 is also something that Kathy and Leslye are fighting Disney to reinstate almost immediately. So far, it's not working well, as more than half of the board of directors at Disney are calling for Iger to keep his stand with the cancellation of Acolyte Season 2 and Leslie's multi-million-dollar deal going down the drain. This is also due in part to his cost containment plan of spending less and making less at the Walt Disney Company. Leslye reportedly got her foot in the door at Marvel Studios since Kathleen Kennedy is very close, friends of course, with Kevin Feige, who also handed Leslye roughly 5 Marvel projects to work on. Get that. One of which, for example, was going to be a spin-off to Ironheart, and another was reportedly the Young Avengers project that she was going to lead as a co-writer. Those two are also no longer moving forward for Leslye Headland, as Bob Iger is looking for other creators to take over. Now, before I move on to what's going on here, even more so behind the scenes over at Lucasfilm, Marvel Studios, and just Disney in general, for Leslye Headland's career, that's now pretty much in shambles. I mean, rightfully so. Look at what she did to Star Wars. Look at what she did to Episode 3. So many people that really loved this franchise or were just hanging on by a thread when it comes to Disney Star Wars are now gone. Alright, there's a lot of people that said things, well, I was slipping away for, many years since, I would say, Kenobi or Mando Season 2, and they eventually just got, further and further away from Disney Star Wars. Episode 3 is really what did it allow for many people. A lot of merchandise was canceled, and we'll talk more about that in just a second, for people that were even looking forward to the Acolyte series. Mind you, about a year and a half ago, the Acolyte was something that some fans were very hyped up for. For me, I saw for what it was right from the get-go when they hired Leslie Headland, one who was the former assistant of Harvey Weinstein, the former personal assistant. I know I always keep bringing that up, but it needs to be made clear. But what's interesting about this, and in a very comical way, I'm not saying it's interesting in, a way where I'm rooting for Star Wars, but this is someone that deserves everything that she got. Look, I'm not one to, celebrate someone's exit out of, a career or anything like that. But when it comes down to what Leslie has been saying in the press tour and attacking fans and really ridiculing fans for remaining opposed to her agenda, then you know what? I really don't feel sorry for her position over at Disney right now. I really do not. I mean, sorry, not sorry, but I really just don't feel bad for her current scenario. Now, what's interesting about this has a lot to do with the fact that she's unprofessional. She is very unprofessional. We know that she talks in a very juvenile way many times, but moving ahead, alright, in addition to this, Disney analysts recently reported to the Disney executives that the Acolyte Episode 3 created a massive dip in Disney Plus subscriptions, along with cancellations of the Acolyte merchandise that is already losing Disney tons of revenue in the process. Leslie Headland was reportedly furious with the Disney heads and had heated and argumentative conversations with the executives that were organized by her agent and manager to get that conversation going after the Acolyte's failure, which is expected to only get worse, again, I must remind you, with Episode 4 set for June 18th. We have a lot of things coming for Episode 4. Not only is it going to be even more of a poorly written episode, but it is going to kind of throw in a couple of pronouns. It's really quick, but they throw it in there, they shoehorn it into Episode 4, and it's not going to help things at all. So that basically, by June 18th, that's half the series. Think about that for a second. That is half your show. That is an epic disaster, and right now we're worse than the Rings of Power Season 1. We all remember what happened with the Rings of Power Season 1 not so long ago, and it even is outperforming that. The Acolyte dethroned, that show as a very controversial one at that. But yeah, I would love to hear what everyone has to say about the whole Leslie situation, because let's face it, this is one that will never admit failure or never take responsibility for what she did in Episode 3. Some people say that they love Episode 3, but you know what? I think that the majority of fans are truly sickened by what they just saw in that episode due to bad writing, a poorly written script, terrible acting, and the execution was just awful. And let me just say, the agenda is so in your face, it's not even funny anymore. But overall, drop a comment below, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.